what has been the reason that you're like, let me look at these small businesses?
I really enjoy what I do with business, and one of the ways that I want to continue to grow and work with businesses in the future is, and part of like what Scale with Pros is from in general is like, we're yes, we're coaching people in Scale with Pros and we're consulting with companies and helping them, and then there's going to be a percentage of those people that maybe they're a fit for me to invest in their company and maybe buy part of their business and then help them at a higher level. But as far as the business buying, I mean, they're essentially flips. Like the cleaning company, we'll probably grow that for maybe 3 years, and then, I'll be planning to exit out of that myself. We had bought this was out of our buy box, but it was just a deal that ended up working out, which is the plant guy, which is out of the realm of usually what I'm involved in, but plant company in Florida. And that's, similar thing, where I have a target in mind of, we acquired it about a little over 3 million a year in revenue, which was last year. This year we'll probably hit between 5 to 5.5 million. And, my goal for that is, grow it to about 12 to 15 million a year in revenue. And then I'm going to be making my departure, peacing out. And, the plant guy will be able to continue on. But I'll have made my money along that way. And I just, have my entry point and when I want to be able to get out of some of these deals. So they're kind of just like short term, a couple year flips essentially of like fixing some things, getting the right things in place, getting the right people in place, the right processes, and then having it be this nice packaged, professionalized company that we can go to a private equity company and, it can get a good payday on, the value creation from that.
So I'm guessing if this company had all the systems and processes in play and was like, man, we really need marketing and sales, you wouldn't probably be like, oh, this is perfect for my buy box. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like I like again, I can go in and like with Plant Guy, for example, I've had to help them fix their sales process. They weren't they were struggling in a lot of areas there. So from like, okay, how do we need to set up the CRM? How do we make the leads flow through? What are the pipelines that we need to build for the company? Like I could help with all that. What are the roles we need? We need a inside sales rep that's working the leads, setting appointments for our senior designers. Okay, we have a rendering person creating render. It's like I understand how to like put that team together. So I can help companies do that. It's just that's not like that ideal avatar, I guess, when it comes to that business buying side of, is like they are amazing at their marketing and sales, but the rest of their company is a dumpster fire. That's my favorite because it's like those are the things that are like super easy for me to fix and super fun to fix.
I love it. So what is a buy box like for Cody? I mean, you kind of described it a little bit right there.
So right now, I'm not actively acquiring any more companies right now because we just, we're literally 90 days into after we acquired that cleaning company. We're still working on things with Plant Guy, and I'm building the Scale with Pros group right now, and I'm still actively managing a couple of other companies. So I'm not acquiring anything else right now until probably like Q2 of next year. But buy box wise, as far as as we were buying, was typically up to about 3 million a year in revenue companies. About 1 million to 3 million a year in revenue is what we're looking for companies where the founder wants to stay in place and that we're just buying a chunk of the company. And so with that, and the reason for that is I don't want to go be the face of any of these companies. The only one I want to be the face of is Scale with Pros. That's it. And so like Matthew, the plant guy, he is the guy. Like no one knows Cody at Plant Guy, like besides like the internal team, but like clients don't know Cody. And so my goal is to go into 1 to 3 million a year companies that have strong marketing and sales but are struggling with leadership, ops, finance, technology, people, all of those areas of their company, and come in and bring those areas of value to the organization and their in strategic planning and things. So 1 million to 3 million a year, and generating at least 10% net profit is generally what we're looking for. And then the reason I was saying it out of the buy box is Plant Guy didn't really fit in with we're only really looking for service-based businesses or online based service companies is our actual buy box. So within those revenue ranges where the founder wants to stay in place, I do not want to be the face of any of these companies. So that's essentially what the plan is with the companies to go into, because I could go make a big impact, but I don't have to show up every day and do the things.
No, it totally makes sense. So we talked about going from 6 to 7, and now we're kind of talking about 7 to 8. So what's the
Mhm.
number one roadblock that you see when people go from 7 to 8?
Most companies get stuck at 2 to 3 million as far as I is what I see, because you can brute force your way to $1 million a year. You could even push it up to like maybe 2 or 3. But what has to happen from that 1 or that million to 10 million a year is when you're going into the business, there has to be alignment of the people. The people become the lid at that point. It's the department leadership that has to be installed at that, at those stages so that the business can continue to scale. A lot of times what breaks down is all of the people that were involved in growing the company to 2 to 3 million a year. If they're kind of that 1 to 3, what happens is most of the time people get stuck there because they hired, their cousin and they called them their CFO when really they just barely knew how to use QuickBooks, and they're really just a glorified bookkeeper. So they're just a generalist in finance, and they aren't sophisticated enough to actually do the finances for the company of a 3 million a year company. It was fine when they were doing 500 grand a year, but not at 3 million. Same thing with, sales. Like if there's a sales manager that was maybe managing at, a few hundred grand, $1 million a year. Once you get to 3 million a year, how are you doing your sales forecasts? How are you building your layers of leadership to have, junior salespeople and then senior salespeople? How are you building your model to scale up sales? Like those are things that that's where a lot of businesses cap, because they're not continuing to either invest into their leadership team so that they're able to continue scaling. So they reach their revenue lid based on the skills of the people, including the leader themselves. And then the other problem is the alignment of everyone in the company. Because at that stage, like at Plant Guy, doing we're this year somewhere between 5 to 5.5 million. We have, I don't know, 30 something, maybe 40 team members there. And that becomes a lot more people than you're not sitting around a table eating one pizza together with that group. Like that's a squad, you know what I mean? And so as the business is maturing, you have to, over that million hump, you need to align and create a company, make sure there's a company vision. There needs to be a set company mission of where everyone in the company is going together. Where is this journey? What is our stake in the ground of where we're going? And then there has to be core value alignment that's consistently, shared within the organization. So we're making sure that the people we're hiring, the people that we're growing, and the people that are leading our people are in alignment with our mission, our vision, and our core values. And if all of those things are true, and then we go to that other, that first thing that I was talking about, which is making sure you have the right specialist in a role that can execute it at a high level, that is what is actually helps the business go to 5, 7, 10 million a year in revenue. But people don't want to have hard conversations in that 1 to 3 million a year range, and they let the poor performer in finance and they let the poor performer in ops or whatever role it is in the company stay there because they don't want to have a conversation about them not doing the job well enough anymore at this revenue. So then they stay stuck, and then they never grow past that. And that's what a lot of companies do. Instead of having the hard conversations and either coaching them up to those skills if they can learn them fast enough to grow with the company, or you have to coach them out and you have to bring in someone that has worked in that role at a similar revenue range so they know what the path looks like to grow that specific department. And that is what becomes the biggest factor, because at $1 million to 3 million a year in revenue, you have product market fit. You're getting leads, people are buying your stuff. You've already figured that out. Now you need to do more of it, which then creates the complexities in the other areas. And you need professionals to actually be running departments. So you actually, as you're growing through the multiple millions and upwards of 10 million, you're going to have a sales manager, you're going to have a marketing manager, you're going to have, a staff accountant or maybe a controller doing your finance for the company. You're going to have maybe an HR associate or manager in the company. And those are just things that'll start to be added to the organization. And I know I'm rambling on a lot, but like those are the things I always see every time, just talking to either business owners or consulting with them. And those are the bottlenecks all the time.